She insulted what she thought was just another customer, only to find out he owned the place. And that customer? Clint Eastwood. The midday sun spilled through the windows of Sierra Grill, a cozy but always busy spot in Carmel by the Sea, California. It wasn't flashy, rustic tables, clean lines, and the smell of grilled onions in the air. But it had that small-town charm that locals loved, especially on a warm Thursday afternoon. For Megan, 23, overworked and undertipped, charm wasn't cutting it today. Her shift had been chaos from the moment she'd walked in. One server called out sick. Another had dropped a tray of drinks during lunch rush. Megan had been stuck in damage control mode ever since. Table 7 wants extra ranch. She didn't look up, just jotted down another order with a sigh, her ponytail swinging behind her as she darted between tables, dodging complaints and balancing drinks like a circus act. And the tips? Miserable. A trio of rude customers had stiffed her already. So when a man in his 80s walked in and quietly took a seat in the corner, Megan was running low on patience. He didn't exactly scream high roller. Wrinkled flannel shirt, faded jeans, old boots that had clearly lived through decades, and a well-worn Stetson resting on the table. Megan gave him a quick once-over. Her lip curled into a faint, tired smirk. Great, she muttered under her breath. Another one who's going to order black coffee and leave $1. But she couldn't dodge him forever. Her coworker nudged her. You've got table 12. Megan grabbed her notepad and plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Hi there. What can I get you today? She asked, voice clipped with fatigue. The man looked up. His eyes, sharp, observant, held hers for a beat longer than expected. There was something oddly familiar about him, but Megan couldn't place it. Just a burger, he said, his voice low and gravelly. It carried a calm authority she wasn't used to hearing in customers. Burger. Got it, she said, pen tapping. Anything else? No, ma'am. He tipped his hat slightly. She rolled her eyes as she walked away. Ma'am, she muttered, seriously. But as she passed through the kitchen doors, a strange feeling settled over her. He wasn't rude, wasn't impatient, wasn't anything like the others. There was a presence about him, quiet, steady, like he was waiting for something, watching. Megan shook it off. Just another table, just another burger, just another $1. She dropped off the plate with less finesse than usual. Her forced smile flickered as she placed the ketchup bottle beside his plate. Here you go, she said. Need anything else? He looked at the burger, then back at her. No, this looks just fine, thank you. Polite, but firm. It made her feel strangely self-conscious. She hovered, unsure why she hadn't already moved on. Maybe it was his stillness. Everyone else was buzzing, snapping fingers, barking orders, but this guy? He sat like he had all the time in the world. You're not from around here, are you? She asked, leaning against the table, eyebrow arched. No, he replied, cutting his burger in half with careful, deliberate movements. Thought so, she said with a smirk. The hat gave it away. Looks like you just stepped out of an old Western. For the first time, he smiled. Not a big grin, just the faintest curve of his lips. Something like that, he said. She'd expected a grumble or maybe a defensive remark. But he stayed perfectly composed. It only irritated her more. Lowering her voice like she was letting him in on a secret, she said, You know, most people around here don't show up looking like they just got off a horse. He took a slow bite of his burger, unfazed. Then after a pause, Well, I guess I'm not most people. There was something in the way he said it. Plain words, but they landed with weight. For a second, Megan felt a flicker of doubt. Then she shook it off. Well, enjoy your meal, she said quickly, pushing off the table and striding away before he could say anything else. She thought that was the end of it. She had no idea how wrong she was. She noticed him watching her, not in a creepy, leering way, but with an expression that made her feel assessed, like she was being quietly judged. The intensity of it unsettled her, though she couldn't explain why it got under her skin the way it did. She'd soon learn that look was about to change the course of her day and her life in ways she never imagined. The lunch rush was finally winding down. The clatter of plates, voices, and footsteps softened into a calmer rhythm. Megan exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. She leaned against the counter, scrolling absently through her phone while keeping a casual eye on her remaining tables. Her gaze landed on table 12. He was still there, finishing his burger, sipping his water. No rush, no phone. Just watching, taking it all in. "Hey, Megan," her coworker Danny said, pausing beside her. "Isn't it weird how chill that guy is? Like he's not just eating, he's observing." Megan shrugged. "Yeah. Well, some people have all the time in the world," Danny chuckled. "He kinda looks familiar, don't you think? Maybe he's famous or something." Megan rolled her eyes. "Please, if he's famous, then I'm the Queen of England." Danny raised a brow but didn't push. Megan wasn't in the mood for guessing games. She grabbed the check for table 12 and walked over, determined to make it quick. "Here's your check," she said with a thin, polite smile. "Whenever you're ready." The man glanced down at the slip of paper, then looked back up, his eyes locking with hers. There was a quiet intensity there that made her shift her weight uneasily. "Do you enjoy your job?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. His tone was calm, almost casual but deliberate, like he was testing something. Megan hesitated. Her smile faltered. "It's fine," she said with a shrug. "It's a job, you know." He nodded slowly, face unreadable. "A job's what you make of it," he said after a pause. "But it seems like you're carrying a lot today." Her cheeks flushed. Who was this guy to comment on her mood? She crossed her arms defensively. "Look, I've had a rough shift, okay? Not everyone gets to sit around eating burgers and handing out unsolicited advice." To her surprise, he didn't get defensive. He just leaned back in his chair, that same faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Fair enough," he said. "But how you treat people in those moments says more than you think." Megan's jaw tightened. Was he lecturing her? She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could get a word out, he stood and reached into his pocket for his wallet. "I'll leave you with that thought," he said, placing a few bills neatly on the table. "Thanks for the meal." And just like that, he turned and walked toward the door. Megan huffed under her breath. "Yeah, whatever, cowboy." But just as he reached the exit, something unexpected happened. Carol, the no-nonsense manager who rarely left her office during lunch hours, suddenly appeared, moving fast for someone who normally took her time. Her face lit up with recognition. "Mr. Eastwood," she beamed, extending her hand. "I wasn't expecting you today." Megan's stomach dropped. Eastwood. Her mind scrambled as the name echoed in her head. Clint Eastwood. She whipped around to look at the door. There he was, pausing just long enough to shake Carol's hand, then glancing back over his shoulder. His eyes met Megan's once more, this time with a flicker of knowing amusement, before he stepped outside and disappeared. Megan stood frozen. She'd just brushed off Clint Eastwood. Not only Clint Eastwood, but the owner of the restaurant. The realization hit her like a truck. Her notepad felt like dead weight in her hand. Carol turned to her, glowing with excitement. "Megan, can you believe it? Mr. Eastwood just dropped in. I haven't seen him in weeks. He's been so busy lately." Megan's mouth went dry. Yeah, that's... wow." Carol didn't catch the panic in her voice. She was too caught up in her own admiration. "You know, this place means everything to him. Every little detail, he's personally signed off on it. That's why we always tell staff to stay sharp. You never know when he'll pop in." Megan felt the walls closing in. She replayed everything she'd said to him. Every smirk, every sarcastic jab. Her cheeks burned with humiliation. "You good?" Danny asked, noticing her pale face. I think I need a minute," she mumbled, retreating quickly to the break room. As the door shut behind her, she slumped against it, heart racing, head spinning. She had just insulted Clint Eastwood. The Clint Eastwood, and he owned the place. Megan let out a shaky breath and sank into a chair in the break room. Her hands trembled slightly as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. How could I have been so oblivious? She'd worked at the Sierra Grill for 2 years. 2 years of brushing off stories about the mysterious owner. 2 years of tuning out rumors and never once bothering to ask questions. If she'd paid even a little attention, maybe she would have recognized him. Or, at the very least, thought twice before mouthing off. Her thoughts swirled in a chaotic mess of regret and embarrassment. But one question kept rising to the surface. What now? She didn't know. What she didn't realize was that Clint Eastwood wasn't finished with her just yet. The next day, Megan arrived at work with a knot of anxiety coiled tightly in her stomach. She hadn't slept. Her mind had replayed the encounter over and over. His calm demeanor, his piercing gaze, the quiet authority in his voice, and the look he gave her before walking out. She cringed every time she remembered it. What if he'd spoken to Carol? What if he complained? What if she got fired? She couldn't afford to lose this job. Rent was due soon. Her student loans weren't getting any smaller. She spent the morning avoiding eye contact with Carol, laser-focused on being the best version of herself, smiling, refilling drinks before anyone asked, apologizing before problems escalated. She was putting in more effort than she had in months. By lunchtime, the restaurant buzzed with customers. Megan was wiping down a recently vacated table when she heard it, that unmistakable gravelly voice she hadn't been able to forget. "Well, looks like you're busy today." Her head snapped up. Clint Eastwood was standing near the counter, hands tucked casually into his pockets. He wore the same unassuming outfit as the day before, but somehow, his presence felt even more commanding now that she knew who he was. Her heart sank. She forced a nervous smile. Mr. Eastwood. Hi, I didn't think you'd be back so soon." He tilted his head slightly, studying her. "I like to check in on my places now and then. Keeps people on their toes." Megan swallowed hard. Her palms were sweaty. "Right. Well, everything's running great today." He gave a small nod, glancing around the restaurant before turning his gaze back to her. "I can see that," he said. "But you seem a little tense." Her breath caught. Of course he noticed. He probably noticed everything. She opened her mouth to apologize, to explain, but he lifted a hand, stopping her gently. "No need to apologize," he said, voice calm. "I'm not here to make your life harder." She blinked, taken aback. "You're not?" "No," he said simply. "But I do think there's a lesson here." She held his gaze, heart thudding. "You never know who you're talking to," he said, "or what they might be dealing with. A little kindness goes a long way." Her throat tightened. She didn't know what to say, so she nodded, a lump forming in her chest. "I've had bad days too," he continued, voice softening. "But how you carry yourself on those days, that matters. People notice." His tone wasn't judgmental, but it cut deeper than any reprimand ever could. He wasn't trying to shame her, he was trying to teach her something. "Thank you," Megan said, her voice quiet and earnest. "I mean it." He smiled gently. "You're welcome. Just remember, every interaction's an opportunity. Use it well." With that, he tipped his hat and walked out, leaving Megan standing there, heart full and eyes stinging. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something stir, a spark of something unfamiliar, the desire to be better. In the Carindia, days and weeks that followed, Megan couldn't shake his words. They echoed in her mind every time she tied her apron and stepped onto the floor. Every interaction's an opportunity. Use it well. At first, she wasn't sure how to begin. She wasn't the bubbly, over-the-top type. Faking smiles wasn't her thing. But there was something in Clint's quiet wisdom that stuck with her. She didn't have to become someone else. She just had to care a little more. So she started small. When a frazzled mom's toddler knocked over a full glass of soda, Megan didn't roll her eyes or sigh. She grabbed a rag, smiled, and said, "Don't worry. Happens to the best of us." When an elderly couple struggled to hear her list the specials, asking her to repeat them 3 times, she didn't let her frustration show. Instead, she patiently explained again, even adding her own recommendations. And the most surprising part? The more kindness she gave, the better she felt, like a weight was lifting. One evening, near the end of her shift, Carol called her into the office. Megan's stomach tightened. Here it comes, she thought. He must have said something after all. She stepped inside, nerves buzzing, and shut the door behind her. Carol looked up, folded her hands, and said, "You've been with us a while now, and I've noticed a change in you lately." "A good one," Carol said. Megan blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, thank you. I don't really know what brought it on." Carol gave a knowing smile. "Whatever it is, keep doing it. The customers have noticed too. Someone even left a comment card the other day praising your service." Megan felt her chest swell with a strange mix of pride and disbelief. She hadn't thought anyone was really paying attention, let alone enough to say something. As she stepped out of the office, a quiet smile tugged at her lips. She still had a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was moving in the right direction. That night, as she locked up the restaurant, she paused for a moment and looked up at the sign out front. It didn't feel like just a job anymore. It felt like a place where she could grow, where she could learn, where she might even make a difference. And she owed that shift to a quiet cowboy who'd walked through the door one busy afternoon and delivered a lesson she'd never forget. Because sometimes it's the smallest encounters that leave the biggest mark. And every moment is a chance to choose who we become. If this story moved you, hit the like button and share it with someone who could use a little encouragement today. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories and gentle reminders to choose kindness every day.